Hey guys, how's it going? So tonight what we're going to be doing is putting water cooling on both my 2080 Ti's. And I know I did a video already previously where I put the NZXT Kraken X62 on this card. What I ended up doing is moving that onto my Threadripper because it was doing a pretty good job on that. And the cooler I had on there was getting a bit older. And the temperatures were okay, but with the NZXT on there, it's doing a lot better job. So I had the stock coolers back on here for a while, and what I'm going to be doing is replacing it tonight. I was going to get EVGA hybrid kits, but they don't seem to be coming into stock, and rather than continue to wait for something that might take a while, and they're much more expensive, I decided to go kind of do my own thing again. So I've got a pair of G12s. This time I'm using white ones because the water blocks have a white housing around them on these coolers, and I thought that would look kind of neat. And I got an NZXT internal USB hub because each of these coolers, I don't have it open right now, but they have a USB mini that plugs into the water block, so you can use, like, that powers the pump and allows you to control the RGB colors and so forth, and change fan settings, change the water flow from within Windows using usually like whatever the company's custom app is but that connects to the motherboard on a motherboard header. Well, my motherboard and most motherboards that I'm aware of usually only have about 2 USB 2.0 headers, and so each of these takes one. Then the NZXT X62 requires one, and then if I want the headers that connect to the USB 2.0 ports on the front of my case, which I don't really care about those because I almost never use them anyway, and there's still 3.0 ports up there that would work regardless, but this will allow me to hook up. You see, you get like the little, sorry that's reflective, like the little gray connection goes to your motherboard, and then you get 3. So I'll at least be able to hook up all 3. Well, actually, that'll leave me with 1 on the motherboard, and then 3 on here I can use for a total of 4. So I can hook up all the pumps, and then I can hook up my front ports for my case. So this was like, I think this was like $15 or something like that. So it's not terribly expensive. It runs off of a power connector that goes to a Molex plug in your power supply, so you don't have to use up a SATA or anything like that. You can just kind of hook up something that, Molex is almost useless at this point for most things. I don't see too many devices using it anymore, but I thought this was a pretty cool little device. Again, for like $15, that adds some expandability to my setup. So that's nice. The model number we're working with here is the EVGA CLC 120 hybrid cooler with RGB. But the only RGB on these is like it just has the letters EVGA written on it. That's it. And you can change the color of those. I don't know if like you can do multiple colors at once, like maybe like E be one color, V be another color, etc. We'll have to find out if you can do that. But anyways, what I guess I'll do is get one of these opened up here and we'll have a look at it. These are not listed as compatible with these mounts, but I know that they are because I did like some research on some web forums about them, and other people have done them. They say you kind of have to orient them in a certain way to get them to mount correctly, so that's fine as long as it works. And that like I say, like you have to put them kind of at an angle because of the way that you mount on here. There's like 4 screw points, and if you have it straight on there, it's like you can't screw it into position because the screws will be hitting against the housing on it. So we'll see how it goes. Supposedly it's also possible that I might need to place a copper shim between the GPU itself and the water block because they may not make full contact with it. And if that's the case, I have a bag of those around here somewhere, and if I can't find that, I can order that and just pick up this video, seamlessly once that arrives. Hopefully I don't have to deal with that, but those are cheap. You can get a bag of those for like $5. I probably could find them locally at a hardware store, honestly. I could probably go to like Lowe's or something and get something like that. But that said, I'm going to open up one of these boxes so we can have a look at one of these, and I'll be right back. So this is pretty standard. I don't know. Like I said, I've done a video of these before, and I'm sure most people, well, I don't know, some people watching this may not have done one of these before, but kind of nice. It looks like it's got dual fan outputs, even though it only has 1 fan, but you can always put a second fan on the outside of it. So if you were going to run 2 fans for like a push-pull configuration, this would work pretty well for for doing that. And then their fans are kind of interesting. They have like this little internal lip, so you get a better look at the fan itself. Maybe that disperses air better. I don't really know if that's better or worse or about the same as usual. And it comes with thermal adhesive applied, thermal grease or whatever you want to call it. The downside is I thought they were white. They're more of a silver color, so that's sort of a bummer. But whatever. It probably won't look that bad against the white backdrop. And, whatever. It'll be fairly dark in the case. And this will be lit up anyway, so I guess I'm not going to complain about it too much. But it's a pretty good sized block, and they're nice sleeved cable tubes, water tubes. So they should be a little bit more resilient than perhaps some. But yeah, you just plug this into the motherboard fan header and then hook up however many fans you have to this, and away you go. But like I see, you got to plug in through here using, as I mentioned before, this USB mini, I think it's mini, not micro, I think it's mini, to USB 2.0 motherboard header, which again, I'm going to connect to that and thus be able to run this bad boy. So, that said, I guess what I'll do is I'll get the card torn back down. These are really easy to tear down. These take like 4 screws and the fan comes right off. That's how easy they are to get apart. And the only mounting hardware that I need to get this on there, I'll have to take off this bracket because this has to connect to that, and so I won't need this. So I'll have to take that off and then get it hooked up on here. But all the mounting hardware that you need comes with the G12 as far as mounting it on the video card goes. You don't need any thing that came in the original box. So, all right, I will be right back in a second here. I'm going to get this opened up, get the card taken down, get the thermal grease off the GPU, that kind of stuff. That's pretty simple. To take this apart, just since I didn't show you what you need to do, all you have to do is take these 4 screws out, 2 and 2, and it comes right off. And there's like a little connector underneath that plate in the back where that wire goes in there. And that's for the RGB/LED lights on the fan, but that comes off really easily, and you're good. It comes right out, and I'm just going to put that probably back in the box it came in, and we'll continue in a minute here. Be right back. All right, so once again, I've got the fan off of there already and cleaned off the GPU, and I took the mounting bracket that was on this cooler off there. Basically, if you just push on each corner of the 4-way bracket that was on there, push on 2 of the corners and give it a turn to the left. You have to push a little hard, but it'll come right off. It'll just click right out of position. It can only go one way on this. There's like little grooves on the back sides of each of these, so you can only turn it one way. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. That's the same way as a screw. That's the easiest way to remember how to do these. So the screws, these are the 4 that were in the back of the video card. That's all I needed to take out of there. Definitely white, not silver, so it doesn't really match. That's too bad. It'd be almost kind of cool if I could take these and get them powder coated or get some Krylon or something and do it myself, and maybe that'd be something to do in the future, but I don't care that enough to put that much effort into it, and that would be something to do for another time when I had this. I don't even know where I would do the work. There's really nowhere in here, in my home obviously, that I can be painting, and I have a deck outside, so I guess if I put down a bunch of paper or something like that or cardboard, I might be able to do the work in an area out there, but it would have to dry for a long time, so that wouldn't be something to do right this second, but in the future maybe I'll screw around with something like that and start doing custom colors and things. That'd be kind of cool. But for those who didn't watch last time, basically this is the bracket. Like I said, that will twist into this. I have to put this fan on here as that cools the VRMs on the video card, which you can't see because luckily this is why I like these XC cards from NVIDIA. They have, or EVGA, sorry. They have the front plate and a back plate on the card, so everything stays covered and you don't have to worry too much about your video memory overheating. That's pretty nice. And then it comes with mounting hardware, which I can show you guys again kind of how that goes on in a minute. For some reason, again, this is something I mentioned in the last video I did one of these on, but even though these have brackets specifically for AMD and NVIDIA, and this is clearly an NVIDIA card, for some reason the 2080 Ti's, they changed the orientation or the size, the distance between these mounting holes. You got to use the AMD brackets now. So bear that in mind if you buy the 2080 Ti reference card and you want to put an NZXT G12 mounting kit on it. you're going to have to use the AMD brackets from here, which is fine. It works the same way. It's just bear that in mind. The NVIDIA ones will be too large, so don't sit there wondering, why doesn't this fit on my card? For some reason, they changed the size of the holes. And bear in mind, too, that the G12 has been around for a couple years, and obviously the 2080 Ti didn't exist when these were, when these were first made. So they're just not technically compatible on paper, but they do work. So don't worry about that too much. So I'm going to go ahead and set this thing up, and I'm going to go ahead and try to get it mounted on the card, and we'll see, again, because of the size of this block, like maybe I can kind of show you what I'm getting at here. I don't want to stick it on there too much, but like you can see, it's going to cover a pretty good amount of space. I probably will need to orient it kind of at an angle so I can, screw it, mount, or, tighten it down with the mounting screws. So that's what I read on that forum, and that seems to be kind of confirmed. That's a really kind of a large cover for that block area there. All right, I'll be right back here once I get some things figured out and get some things connected. Be right back. So we got those mounts on there, which basically, again, you just put screws up to the bottom of the card and connect each one of these. And again, these say A because they're AMD brackets. The NVIDIA ones are a little bit wider, and again, will not fit on these newer 2080 Ti's. I did find those copper shims I was mentioning, so if I need those, I have them handy. They're just thin little pieces of copper, and if you need to fill in the space, you just put down a layer of thermal grease. You put the shim on top of that, and then you put your water block on top of that, again with another layer of thermal grease to connect the two together, and thus you connect the heat away. These GPUs are kind of large. I don't know if I consider that large enough to really be effective with one this size. The last time I did one, I think that the chip size, the die size was a little bit smaller on these cards. So I might still want to get something bigger, I guess. Or I could maybe use two of them. Probably cover a little bit more space than necessary, but that might work. I don't know. Whatever. It's an option. But the other thing you have to do is in the box, there's these two little foam posts that have adhesive on one side of them. And you stick them to this, so when you lay down, I haven't put this in together yet, but basically it'll lay on here, and that way it kind of keeps it a good distance so you don't screw it down too hard and damage your power connectors or anything like that. But that's what those are for. And you can put them kind of anywhere on the card back here that you want. It depends on the card that you have. Again, in my case, because I have this front plate, they kind of can go anywhere. But if you had a card that was just exposed PCB, you'd have to kind of find a spot that worked better for you. But that said, I'll go ahead with the next step here, which again is kind of getting this into here and getting the fan on there and seeing what happens. Actually, that's cool. Now that I think about it, I can run this fan off of one of these and then the fan for that off the other one, so I won't need to use any of the headers on my motherboard outside of the one that is required that basically powers all these things anyway. And I think they take maybe a little power from this. But next up, we're going to try to put it on there, so we'll see what happens here in a minute. Alright, so this thing has to be done at kind of a funny angle, as I thought, because if you do it fully square on there, it just covers up these holes entirely, and then you're not going to be able to mount it on there, and it just doesn't work. So you have to get it at an angle, and I tried a few different angles to see whichever one I thought would fit the best, and I got to tell you, it is difficult. After a couple of times of twisting this thing into place and then unlocking it and putting it back in, your hands will get very tired if you have to do that. My right hand is quite tired right now. But this other thing, I had to use different screws. These ones just are way too close. They're too big, didn't fit against this material. So this housing is really too large, and this really isn't meant to go on this, but again, we're improvising. So consequently, I found a set of screws and washers that came with the cooler itself in this hardware bag that came in the original box. So, I mean, you can always improvise something else, and they've tightened down nicely, and it does look to me like, I don't know if you can see in there really well, but it looks like the water block is making solid contact with the GPU. Of course, there's only one way to tell if it's working well or not is, of course, to hook it up and try it. So, what have we got over here? I know that there's, where is it at? Maybe I ended up taking it off. I thought for sure there was, yeah, there's like a little peelable, removable thing here. There we go. Now it looks nice and shiny. But we got that one done, so I guess I'll go ahead and do the next one. And if I have any complications, I'll mention it, but they should be the same, except for the other one has a wider, is going to have the 3-sided bracket, or the 3 bracket on it, unless I maybe order a different replacement one or something from EVGA, but I don't think I should have any real reason to do that. It should be fine in the way it is in the case. So I'm going to go ahead and get the second one done, and once that's all set up, I'll take these upstairs and we'll try seeing if they work. Hopefully there's nothing real complicated about this. Be back in a minute. So as you can see, I've got both cards mounted the same way. Everything's kind of nice and zip tied to one of the 2 water cables so that I don't have fan cables and shit going all over the place. And so I'm able to run the VRM fan and then the fan for the radiator, both from the pump, which means I don't have to plug anything to the motherboard except for one each. And then I can try to cable manage, that a little bit better. And then we got to hook them up through our little hub and our cables. So each one will hook on here and then run to this thing somehow, and I'll try to make that look as clean as possible. But I guess next thing is to take these upstairs and put them in the machine and see if they work. So let's give that a shot. Be right back. Alright, so we got the cards in the system. I actually think they look okay, but of course, the wiring to it is all just a mess of shit, because there's power cables there, and there's fan cables and water tubes, and not real clean looking. So the last thing I got to do is get the old hub out here. Supposedly it's magnetic and you can stick it anywhere on the case, so I'm thinking I'll just stick it down here somewhere and run all the cables to it and see how this goes, and maybe move it later to try to hide it better. But at least it's it's magnetic, so it'll just stick, and I don't have to use like adhesive or anything like that. So I'm going to try that out, and we'll see what happens here next. But I actually think they look kind of nice. Kind of industrial look to them. Be right back. Alright, so the temperature up here, you can see the GPU utilization is like 82 and 78% respectively. And the main GPU, GPU 2 is the main one. I don't know why it's oriented that way, but whatever. It's at about 55, 56, and GPU 1 is, in the mid 40s. It was like I was having some problems with it. I downloaded EVGA's software. It's called Flow Control, which I don't think really works properly, or at least it's probably not designed to work with 2 of these coolers in the same system. So it only lets you select one of them, and when you select one, you can change like the fan speed of whatever's connected to it, and you can change the rate at which the water flow goes through the tubes. So you have some ability to do that with one of them, but with like I said, with their software, it's like you only can pick one, and the other one is left running at damn near idle. So it's already getting up to 60 again. It's like it's not doing an amazing job on the one. I don't know, maybe maybe that Ultra runs a little hotter, or maybe the block isn't fully mated with the GPU super well. I don't know. It just seems like it's not doing bad. I mean, they're doing better than the stock coolers we're doing, and those are much louder too. Like you can kind of hear it, but it's a lot quieter than it was. So that's a bonus. I probably need to play around with the orientation of my fans in my case too, and maybe I'll try doing like a push-pull configuration or something with additional fans to evacuate the heat out a little bit better. Because I mean, now we're sitting at about 63. That's kind of high for water cooling. They are only 120 millimeters. It's not like like that 280 millimeter radiator I had in there before. And the 2 radiators are kind of right next to each other. I might try to move them a little bit further apart and just see if getting a little space between them, helps dissipate the heat a little bit better. But in general, I mean, they're doing an okay job. I can't really control the LEDs on them either that well. Like I got it to red, but I can't control the LEDs any better because, again, their flow control software will only pick up one of the 2 pumps, and it'll only change that one. And it seems like it's random as to which one it's picking up. I thought it was because I had them connected through the hub, so I took this one up here and I plugged it back just into the other empty motherboard slot, and it didn't make any difference. The software still couldn't pick up both. I also find it seems like when you uninstall the software and then restart, it almost sounds like they're running a little bit higher, like they're running full, like the pumps are both going at full bore, and so you would think that they'd be running a little bit cooler. But again, Back over here, we're already up to 67 degrees. That's not really that good for water. I mean, it's okay. And the frame rate, you know, this is with the anti-aliasing on, and everything's working fine in SLI, so the game is running well. It's just, like I said, the temps aren't, they're not bad. They're better than air, because on air I was getting close to 80 all the time. And, I don't know, it's still climbing a little bit. Hard to say. And it's not like the, like if I get the utilization down a little bit, you see the temperatures drop a little bit. The less they're utilized, of course, you know, they're not working as hard and the temp isn't as bad. But I think that's where I'm going to end the video. I'll play around with it and try to get the temps a little bit better. Like I said, I'll try reorienting the radiators a little bit. See if I can, you know, separating them might probably help a little bit. Get the temp. If I can get it down like 5-10 degrees further on that main GPU, that would be better. That'd be ideal. So, appreciate people watching the video. If you have any questions about the setup of these kind of things, you know, getting the all-in-one coolers installed on a 2080 Ti. Again, these are reference boards, so if you have something that is non-reference, you know, I'll help you as best I can, but you know, you may not be able to get it to fit on there because the mounts may not work there. It may not be made for that card. But again, appreciate people watching the channel. Maybe give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and maybe subscribe if you really want to keep watching me make crazy, stupid shit like this. Thanks for watching, though, and have a great one. Happy New Year. Bye.